Welcome to Insight, a concise commentary on current issues from the Jubilee Centre. Today we're talking to Jonathan Burnside, who is a reader in biblical law at Bristol University. And we're here in Cambridge at a winter conference the Jubilee Centre has sponsored. Jonathan, some people think that the early chapters of Genesis affirm a more exploitative relationship between humanity and creation. How do you respond to that charge?
I think it's a great shame that people do take that view. I can understand it because the early chapters of Genesis do present humanity as having a very special role to play in relation to
using
creation.
Words like dominion or ruling over creation.
Yes, I mean that is the vocation which settled upon humanity about exercising rule and mastery and dominion and all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, dominion means domination, mastery means abuse. And the whole idea about having a chosen species which somehow has particular responsibilities to the rest of creation seems very arrogant and narcissistic. But you see, that's because it all depends what kind of idea of rule or mastery that you have in mind. And it's really important to recognize that the vocation that settled upon humanity at this point comes after a section at the very beginning of Genesis from verse 1 onwards, which basically explains what God's rule over creation is like. And God's rule over creation is about bringing order out of chaos and setting in good boundaries and creating the optimum conditions in which life can flourish. And so it's a picture of nurture, and it's a picture of freedom, and it's a picture of fertility and fecundity, and it's wonderful. So when humanity is being given a very specific role to play in terms of ruling, well, the clear picture is that humanity's rule over the rest of creation must reflect God's good relationship with creation. So I don't think that it's right, certainly not part of the biblical presentation, to say that that rule must necessarily involve environmental abuse. Rather, the challenge is that of faithfully reflecting God's relationship with creation, and in that sense, the sense of privilege of a chosen species is actually a tremendous responsibility, and we shouldn't shy away from the responsibility of caring for creation well.
Thank you. And final question in terms of understanding a little bit of the biblical mind. Can you just tell us a little bit about the eco-laws, as you described them this morning, in the Pentateuch?
Well, because God is presented as the person who creates everything and therefore owns everything, it means that our use and enjoyment of the environment is not an absolute right. It's something that we exercise as a gift from God. And so one of the expressions of that lack of absolute ownership is that we regularly suspend our claims upon the land, whether it's once a week in the regular Sabbath or Shabbat, and the sabbatical year and that kind of thing. But there are also lots of ways in which the biblical laws tell us, and Torah tells us, to limit our take from the environment. So animals are given regular periods of rest, and there are lots of other laws and things like wild mother birds. You can take the eggs from the nest, but you can't kill the mother bird. And it's all about limiting our take on the environment. And that actually follows on very nicely from what we were speaking about a moment ago about the mutual dependence. It's because humanity is grounded and dependent upon the environment that if we exploit the environment, it will go badly for us. And it's interesting that in biblical law, when you have that little story about the bird law, that it says the motivation for obeying that law, it said, so that it will go well for you, so that you may live long on the land. So when humanity limits its take on the environment, that is in the best interest of both humanity and the environment. There are also some biblical laws which make an equation between humanity and the environment, and that reminds us that the way in which we treat one another will determine how we treat the environment, and vice versa.
Jonathan Burnside, thank you very much.
You're welcome.